Hey Track Gang, what's going on in this week's episode of the Boeville in Newtown? Well, it's right over here. Stand by and we'll get into what's happening this week. Hey Track Gang, welcome to episode 1 for 2023. It happens to be January the 2nd, 2023, and I'm Ray, and of course you all knew that, but I was just checking to make sure I had the right date, which I do. I was on vacation last week, so things really got... Anyway, there was quite a bit of discussion around the work that I did last week, which was the card boxes and the shuffle shelves and things of that nature. Well, this week I added to that just a little bit more. What I just got finished doing, and I didn't show any of it because I wasn't sure how it was going to work out. I'm still not sure how it's going to work out, but we're going to give it a shot. I made what I call train cards. Why would you do that? Well, as you know, those that have watched the channel for a while, I do use a card system. I do not use a card forwarding system. In other words, I don't use waybills. One of the reasons is for a couple of the trains it would be too simple, and for the other side it's a bit complex. And I haven't figured out how that's going to how those waybills are going to work out yet. So what I do is a rotating card system. In other words, a train that goes into one of the hidden yards, or even into the Boeville yard, for instance. I'm going to trim my mustache. It's bothering my nose. Anyway, that's the reason why I keep scratching. Anyway, when a train goes into the hidden yard, the cars that are on that train, the cards, go to the back of that particular box. I'm going to show what that looks like here in a little bit, again. So the next freight train out uses the cars in front. And it could be one car, it could be two cars, it could be 5 cars. Who knows? It depends on what I'm looking at when I look at the drawer system that is under the railroad as which one of the 2 yards is light. So in other words, if I notice I've got 3 flat cars sitting in Richmond, but I've got 15 sitting in Harrisburg, I know I need to send a few of those down to the Richmond yard to balance things back out again. I've been trying to make sure, and it's one of the things that I kind of talked about in the past, with the hidden yard drawer system, whatever comes out of one yard has to kind of come out of the other yard, because if you don't, then you end up with an unbalance, and then you also end up with a problem of not having enough room for the rolling stock in the other shelf and the other side. So you kind of have to balance things out as you're building the trains. And normally I build the Richmond side first, and then I build the Harrisburg side, so that way they kind of match up. Or I know what I need to do with Harrisburg to be able to balance things back out. So let's go back to the back of the railroad, and I'll show you what all I'm kind of talking about here. Okay, now that we're back here at Richmond, let's talk about one thing real quick. As you can see, I've got my card boxes back here, and I didn't label the front. Why? There isn't a whole lot of room back here. And you'd have to kind of bend down to be able to see what was going on. So what I did instead, at least temporarily, is I took a 3x5 index card and I cut it down to 2 1/4 inches, and I kind of stuck it in the box behind where the cards sit. So this is box cars, gondola cars, refrigerator cars, 30-ton hoppers, 50-foot box cars, flat cars, the transition cars. Those are the ones that have horn hooks on one side and KDs on the other. My specialty cars, they could be wood chip hoppers, the one auto rack, the little 20-ton ore car, so on and so forth. And then the last box is for my unit trains, which is off camera. One of the things that I did also do I'm sorry, I'm moving the camera and shaking the living heck out of it. There's the unit trains. The other thing that's been done down here is I've actually got 2 pencils and my uncoupling stick. And I used, for that, I just hot glued a roll, or the tube from the poopy bags for dogs. You know, they come in a big fat roll. You put them in a little thing, and when you get done, you end up with these little plastic rolls. Well, I've been collecting a lot of them, and well, that's the reason why. All right, so that takes care of the car card boxes and the car cards. I was kind of talking about how the drawer system works again, with the fact that you've got your rolling stock down here. I just realized that one of these, those Frisco cars, the doors don't like to stay on. Anyway, what I did up top here, and I'm going to shake the living heck out of the camera again, I know it. Alright, what I did up top here is, these are my boxes now for the outbound trains. This one here is northbound, this one here is southbound. Now, the funny thing of it is you're standing here at Richmond Yard, but you're actually going to be putting stuff into this box, because that's north, like I said, that's south. Now, as you can see, for the trains, there's the train number. This one here happens to be 9SA and 11SB. Now, why does it have 2 numbers? 9SA, which is going to be the RDC when it leaves. 9SA leaves Harrisburg and ends up stopping at Boeville. When it starts back up again, it's no longer train 9, it's now train 11. So it's the second half of the train 11 move. So the next move would be, the next passenger train move would be 11SA going south. Once SA hits Boeville, then SB starts up and comes the rest of the way to Richmond. So that's how that works. Like I said, we've got 24 trains that run on this thing. So that's how that works. Now, the freight trains are basically done something very similar. Actually, let me back up a second. So you've got right now this is set for train 9 and 11. Now, once he gets to Richmond, this comes out, it gets flipped, because the next time that particular passenger train is on the layout is when it hits the 21st train on the schedule. So this is 21 and 23. So when he gets to the Richmond yard and goes into storage, that card would actually get flipped, and you'll know that he is actually a part of the on schedule 21. The same thing is going to happen with the freight trains. Now, this one here says train 10 STF. Train 10 south through freight. So that means that this particular train does not stop. It goes directly from Harrisburg, straight to Richmond, no stops. This one says train 10 NLF. That would be train 10 north local freight. Now, the L, being as a local, that means it's going to stop on the main line somewhere along the way. Since this is leaving Richmond and headed north, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to hit Boeville. It's going to drop its consist, and that's going to be the end of that train. Sort of. Because once it hits Boeville yard and it gets swapped out, it's still train 10, but now it's going to be a different locomotive, a different caboose, and a different crew, probably leaving Boeville and headed north. Well, it'll be the same crew. It'll just be a different, like I said, locomotive. And it'll be not a completely different train, but it'll be a different train as it goes north to Weikert Industrial, does the drop there, and then it finishes it the rest of the way to Harrisburg. I'll try to explain more of that once we get there. I'm going to, because some folks had asked again if I could do another operating session, especially now that I have the car card boxes and the train boxes built. There is one other thing I wanted to talk about. I did not label these yet, but in the past we had these caboose pockets. Now these here are for the through freights. This is for the locals. These are all switch locomotives. So the next one here is the Southern, which is back there, so on and so forth. If you notice, these boxes are sitting above the shelving just a little bit. It's about a ½ inch. What I'm going to do, because I still do have some underlayment left over, I'm going to finish that out. I am actually going to put another little bit of this across the whole shelf here to give myself some way to keep the locomotives or the cabooses from coming off of that shelf. Just a little safety measure. Haven't gotten there yet, getting close. So that may end up happening tomorrow. We'll see. But at any rate, that's what we've got for the moment. Okay, so here we are up at White Industrial. And I'm going to try and get this back just a little bit more. So we've got our shuffle shelf over here. We got our throttle, and we've got our car card box. And the way that this is set up, and I'm not sure if it's really going to show up too well on camera, so I'll just explain it. This first slot is the inbound or spotted. The second slot is for maintenance of way. And then the third box here is for outbound. So that's the cars that we're going to be picking up. Now, how do I know what's supposed to be dropped off here? I do know that I don't need a tank car, and I only need one box car. So by looking at what I've got on this train, I know that the split should actually happen at that tank car. So everything in front of the tank car is going to end up in White Industrial. So I'm going to put my cards there for the moment. Those are the cards that I'm going to drop off. And I'm going to look at the box over here, and I know I've got outbound, and I'm going to verify that these are actually the cars that are sitting on the outbound tracks. So the way that this works, and I'm going to pan up and over just a little bit. If you remember correctly, there's actually two tracks back here. There's the inbound, which you probably can't see, and then the outbound, which is where these cars are presently sitting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my outbound car cards, and I'm going to verify I've got a Wabash gondola. I've got the DNE or potlatch gondola. I've got a Naperville Junction hopper car, I've got a Virginian hopper car, and I've got the BCOL box car, or XM. So those I'm going to pick up right out of that box, and I'm going to put them into my train, and then I'm going to take the cards that were spotted or inbound, I'm going to move them to the outbound box. And then I'm going to take the cards that came out of this train, which would be the WT&SC, that's the box car, the DT&I, which is a gondola, the Denver and Rio Grande Western, which is a gondola, the Chesapeake and Allegheny, which is a hopper, and the C&S, which is the other hopper, and I'm going to put them into the inbound track. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the train and of course I just realized that I didn't have the switch on the main train, but that's okay, it worked out anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that switch. I'm going to put my train into reverse, and we're going to come off the main. These gondola cars are going to drive me crazy, because some of them just do not, well, most of them just don't have enough weight in them. And this one here just does not want to stay on the track. talked about the DT&I car. Alright, so now he's in there. I'll pick up my uncoupler. Now, eventually I will have magnets to do that, but for the moment I don't. So now I can switch that switch. I think I got it that time. Yep. All right. Now I'm going to reverse and go down and pick up the rest of the train. See if I actually got it. No, I did not. And that doesn't surprise me. Because that Wabash car is one of the old Penn line cars, and that ended up being a little, that KD coupler conversion ended up being a little unique. So, alright, so we've got the BCOL, we got the Virginian, we got Naperville Junction, we got the Potlatch car, we got the Wabash car, we've got the Golf car, we've got the Delaware car, then we've got the caboose. So train North LF, NLF, is ready to finish its journey to Harrisburg. So that's basically how this works. Now what will happen is once he clears and the southbound train goes through, which is a through freight, once he goes through, then the next two passenger trains will run, which is trains 11 and 13, or I'm sorry, just train 11. Once they run, before the next freight run happens, the Weichert Industrial Railroad locomotive will go ahead and do its switching and bring the boxcar that's over here at Newtown Station, that's now over there behind the maintenance away cars. He'll pick that up, take it over to Weichert Industrial on the outbound track. He'll do all the switching within the Weichert Industrial Railroad over here and get things on the outbound track so that the next train that comes through, the next northbound train that comes through local, will pick up those cars and take them to Harrisburg. So that's how that. All right, truck gang. So I know I didn't do a really good job of what all went on last night, at least as far as the shuffle shelves go. So we're going to go into this a little bit deeper. So right now I've got the incoming train, the one that came in last night, with its cars. They were sitting on the shuffle shelf because that's where they need to be, because they're going to get shuffled. Right now they are sitting on, they're not sitting on the correct track either, but that was because of the fact that, well, I had the other train already built and it needed to get out before I could go ahead and get things manipulated. So, normally, under normal circumstances, these two tracks back here, the ones closest to the warehouse, this is arrival departure 1 and arrival departure 2. These are classification tracks, and of course then we got the caboose track and the switcher track, and I'm hoping all that showed up, which it should have. So what has to happen now is we have to get that train kind of broken down and moved and manipulated a little bit because of the fact that it needs to be shuffled. So that's what we're going to do. Now, let's see, where are we at as far as the turnouts go? Make sure that everything is set. I think we're in pretty good shape. Because what we're going to do is we're going to have to get him out. So this is what's going to happen. I've got these 5 cars here. A couple of these will end up on the next outbound train, so I'm probably going to move those to probably the arrival departure one. Now this is where obviously having a switch list or having the car cards would be, or the way bills inside the car cards would make things a little easier. I'm not there, so we're just going to kind of do this as well. I know that when the next train comes in, it's the southbound, that will have 5 box cars and 3 refrigerator cars, which means that I have to get the ones on the warehouse have to come out. They've got to get moved at some point. Probably not right now, because if I do that now, then I'm not going to have room to bring in the other. Actually, I do need to move them. I take that back. Yeah, it's been a little bit since I've messed with this, so you're going to have to bear with me. So let's go ahead and get the switcher moving here. Maybe. Of course, it would help if I turned the layout on. Oh, come on. This thing is still being a pain in the butt, at least when it's cold. And it had, obviously, it's not cold, it's just the fact that it hasn't moved. Once it moves a little bit, it'll be fine. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the first couple of cars out of here. What I probably really ought to do, or what I should have done, you know what, let me do that first. What I should have done, coulda, woulda, shoulda, is move the warehouse first. Or not the warehouse, but move a couple of these cars out of here. And get them ready to go. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take these 2, because these have been sitting here the longest. There it goes. Get these 2 set on 82. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to my box and I'm going to pull those first 2 cars. That's the Frisco and the Jersey Central, and I'm going to put those on the shuffle shelf because I don't know exactly where they're going to end up. They may end up staying on 82 or they may end up going someplace else. In actuality, what I really need to do here is put them down towards the end. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, that's not what I wanted to do. I was right the first time. Alright. I want that whole thing. Of course, now you kind of get the idea as to why I don't want the 50-foot boxcars in here, because it's a little tight here to start with. I start putting 50-foot boxcars in here, and I'm going to have no space to manipulate anything. Alright, so you know what? I'm going to go over to the other stick. This will work. Yeah, that works better. The flat stick worked well when I was using the horn hooks. It doesn't work as well with the KDs. The pointed sticks seem to work better, and I can see I need to do some work to that Pennsylvania gondola car. Got a little bit of, it looks like it needs a V8. It's leaning. Alright. There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to pick up these other two cars and get them out of the way so I can get to the caboose. Alright, do it that way. It wants to be a pain. Alright. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and grab my caboose. But you see what I mean with this switcher locomotive. The more it moves, the better it starts running. It's just that initial start it doesn't seem to like. I know I switched that. All right. Now, next thing I need to do is I need to move the cars that are on the warehouse and move them to 81. So that way the warehouse is open. For the next inbound train. Then I need to get those gondolas and the hopper cars over to storage track number 1. all that we need to do. Put him back home. And then we'll start shuffling cars here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull out everything here and stick them on the shuffle shelves. That way I clear out better part of the box. I'm going to swing this just a little bit because the warehouse over these are the ones that are going to be manipulated. So pull up my first of the car cards here. I've got a Pennsylvania that is now on track 2 in the back. The Sioux line is a box car. He's the next car up. I've got a Southern. He is actually on the next track. He's actually out front. I've got CA31, CA30. That one there's done. There's my caboose, so I'm going to go into the caboose track and put him in the back. And then we'll go over to the next set of cards. We've got a Great Northern, a Boston and Maine, and a Burlington. They're on track 2, so they'll go there. We'll go over here to this one. We've got the 2 B&O cars, the LAPX, okay, and they're on AD1. And we've got the state of New Hampshire, the Wilson and the Ralston. They're also on AD1. And then we've got a Frisco and the Jersey Central, and they are on AD2. That makes it a lot better than what I had been doing before, which is laying the cards across the track, which was great as long as I was the only one operating. But if you had other trains come through, obviously that was not a good idea. So that's a quick show of how the shuffle shelves work and how the car card boxes work. Right now the warehouse is open, which means that's good because that'll be for the next inbound train, which is a southbound. Not right now. It's going to be a bit before that one happens, but that track's open. I've got my other train sitting there almost ready to go. The only thing I got to do with it, I got to put the caboose on there. That'll be the Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac that'll be pulling that out. But one of the things that's going to need to happen before that is I need to probably take the New Hampshire car and put it over with the Frisco and the Jersey Central. But I don't want to do that right now because I want to make sure that I've got room for when that southbound train comes in for the locomotive to be able to come in and be able to get to the servicing facility. So if you're familiar with how this works back here, I'm going to see if I can get the camera up a little bit. And we'll do a little bit of a zoom here too, which I know drives some folks nuts. Okay, that's a pretty decent shot of that track back there. There we go. All right. So I may have to back this out just a little bit. Okay. And let's shift over. Okay. So when a train comes in, or when the next train comes in, he's going to come up here, the locomotive, and it'll actually come in onto this track. By that point, he's already dropped his train. He'll back up, and then he'll come up in through, and that didn't show up at all. There we go. We'll just back it all the way out. Anyway, he'll come in over here. He'll drop the train off. He'll come up to this track, back up, and then come up through the switches and into the diesel servicing facility, which is where the FEC BL2 is sitting at the moment. and but I need to keep that. I need to keep AD2 somewhat open to be able to have him come in, because if I don't, then I've got no room to put him. And it's not easy over here to bring him in on this track because it's too short. If I did that, then the train would still be sitting out on the main line, and that's not what we want to do. We want to try and keep the main line as clear as possible. So you have to bring him in on the longer run, which means that that's the reason why you have all the switchbacks. Like I said, this yard is a little tight. Actually, it's really tight. And if the expansion ever happens, it's going to get even tighter. But it is what it is. I like it. It does add for some really interesting operations over here, especially once I start doing switch lists and I start getting folks over here to operate on this thing. Whoever works, and I've mentioned it before, but whoever works either Harrisburg and Richmond or works this thing, they've got their work cut out for them, because there is not a lot of room to move. And when I also added the fueling rack over here, that just added to the confusion. Which that's another car that'll actually come out on the next run too. I almost forgot about that. He has to be added to the next outbound. So yeah, fun stuff. Actually, no, he doesn't get added to the next outbound. The next inbound has one. The next outbound north will have that tank car. So anyway, that's enough for right now, and we'll be back. Okay. I just went through and did an edit on this video, obviously. I had to cut a good 10 minutes out of it, because if I didn't, it would have been over 45 minutes, and there was no way I was going to do that to you all twice in the past month. So I cut out one section. I think the video still gets across what I was trying to get across, which is talking about the card cards and the shuffle shelves and the card boxes and so on and so forth. What you didn't see was train 10 NLF going into Boeville Yard and then coming out as the one that showed up at Wykert Hill, or Wykert Industrial, because that was the section that just took too long. It's one of the things that I've had issues with in the past when I wanted to show the operating sessions. You get over to Boeville Yard and you start doing the work over there, and that takes time. And when you're trying to produce a fairly short video, if it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes to do all the swapping over there, it's just not going to work out. So I got rid of that. I wanted to give you guys all a couple of updates. Number one, we have a new Sidetrack Sunday member. Their first show will be the end of this month, which I believe is the 28th. I should have looked at this before. I'm sorry, it's the 29th. So the 29th of January will be their first show. I'm not telling you who it is. Nope. Not going to tell you who it is, but welcome them to the Sidetrack Sunday crew. I know that they're going to be a great fit for the group, and obviously, we talked that it was kind of brought up over at the end of the year. Jason's schedule changed at the beginning of the year, so he's going to be, I guess, for lack of a better term, he's going to be our sixth member if he's able to jump in and help out in certain situations, and that's what he's going to do. If not, then he's not going to be on the regular schedule. So you'll have 5 of us, me, John, Heath, and Rick, and the 4 of us obviously will have the bulk of the months. This other YouTuber will have the 5th Sunday, or will be doing the fill-in, and then if they can't and Jason's available, then he will. So that's where we're at with that. The other big news is the fact that I'm sure that everybody's been following it and very well aware of what's going on. Of course, this is still going to end up being a 45-minute video by the time I get done. But the video editing software, I did get an email from Filmora. too little too late. Basically saying that there was a big miscommunication, so on and so forth, blase, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. I've moved on. I am actually using a software called VideoPad. I actually used it for my intro video for 2023, and I'm quite happy with it. Actually, I was down to two. Down to this one, which is VideoPad, and the other one is called OpenShot. Now, OpenShot, that's a freeware or a shareware thing, and it's a bit clunky. The user interface is nice, but some of the stuff is, and they're very limited as to what they can do. Even with this being a non-licensed home version of VideoPad, it still has quite a bit that you can do, and I'm still digging into it. They did have a thing at the end of the year, end of last year, where if you went ahead and bought it or purchased it, it was like $10 or $15. They had a huge discount going on. I was like, I don't know if I want it yet, so I'm not going to go that route. We'll see what happens after using it for a year, and then we'll figure it out from there. But for right now, VideoPad was the winner, and that's where we are. And you all know the deal. Wait for the highball. Green tracks ahead. Be safe. God bless. We will catch you all next time. See ya.